everybody, and welcome back to another episode of South Star Classroom. We are the early kids, not early. We just on time. I got to give our people some hard time when they running behind. I'm just glad it ain't the black folks. I'm just glad it ain't the black cat. No, it's all good. I think Omar is still somewhere on Pluto. He's doing a tour of all the planets. He's out here in this world. We should have David soon. But Jube, against my better judgment, because I hate these check-ins, but how are you? Check in, Jube.
I'm doing great. Everything's great. I had my breakfast smoothie at 4:20 p.m. And I learned 3 line dances this weekend. Dangerous, Wetter, the TikTok dance. I learned Boots on the Ground and some other trail ride dance because I do love a good dance. So I'm doing great. The school year is about to wrap up in a few weeks, even though central office, that don't really mean much. However, as a parent, it means a lot because I won't have to deal with none of the drama that comes with having children in school for 2 months. So amen. Bless the Lord on my soul and all that's within me. How are you?
I'm tired. I'm busy. It is time for a break. I think I had traveled last week. I was in Oakland. It was a busy week. I'm here a few days. Then I have to go. I can say where I'm going to this first place because I don't know nobody there. I'm gonna be in Brooklyn to honor our good friend Dirk. There's a memorial for him and some of the work he did. So I'm gonna go there, and then I got some speaking and stuff to do in Memphis. So I'm gonna go to Brooklyn, knock that out. From Brooklyn, go to Memphis, spend my few days there, and then come on home. That's the plan.
I love it. Safe travels. And when you're coming to my city, even though I'm in Maryland now, you gotta let me know. So we can play Scrabble and eat pizza.
Got you. I mean, Maryland is very far from BK, but I got you. You be going back. I understand.
It's in my heart.
It's in your heart. That's what's got you.
Yeah.
So when I come to Maryland, then Brooklyn will be in your heart. Understood. Got it. David, you come in right at just the right time. I was able to rib you a little bit, but not as much. I was gonna do it more, but you're here right in for your check-in, a la Jubilee. So check in with us. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Running a little late today, chronically tardy, but I'm here. Looking forward to today's show. Weather's beautiful outside. We got another week of school left, and just trying to get to cross that finish line.
Man, well, congrats on all of that, man. I told Jubilee, I said, I'm just glad it ain't the black folks that's late. We got to kill that stereotype. We good. I got to give y'all a hard time. But I am excited about today's show. And if you read, don't worry about it. If you did, great. If not, no worries. I got a good rundown for everybody out there. And I think it's a topic. We just did one of our new reports in Oakland. Let me just show that real quick. And it's our 2025 Oakland report, Disengaged, Overstretched, and Absent, How Student Agency and Community Collaboration Can Disrupt Chronic Absenteeism. I will bring that back up in a little bit. I know most people are like, when you say chronic absenteeism, what does that mean? So I prepared and wrote a breakdown. Let me get my news guy on, okay? Let me do that. All right, everybody. Today's episode is called The Kids Ain't Coming Back, and we need to talk about what that really means. Let's just start with some facts. In 2022-23 school year, 28% of students across the United States were chronically absent. That means they missed at least 10% of the school year, about 18 days or more, give or take. That's nearly 1 in 3 kids. In the years before the pandemic, the number was closer to 15%. Now we got entire districts or cities like my beloved Oakland, where nearly 60% of Black students are chronically absent. And we're not just talking about a few missed days. We're talking about students checking out of school entirely. So this isn't just about COVID, because I've seen a lot of the pushback has been, well, it's COVID. No, we've been dealing with this long before COVID-19. It's not just about transportation. It's not just about attendance policies. It's a legit crisis. And students aren't just missing schools. They're just deciding that it's not worth coming to. We were talking about this on the college level, and we were talking about this with universities a few weeks back. Where are we at when the K-12 that you are mandated by law to attend, we're starting to see people, kids and families in some cases, just kind of pull back from it. So today we're just asking a question no one in power seems willing to confront. If millions of students are walking away, what exactly are they walking away from? And what would school have to become for them to walk back in? Not just physically, but with purpose. Let's hop into it. So Jubilee, I have general questions, but just based off what we talked about, what I just said in the rundown about chronic absenteeism, do you have just any initial thoughts? And then David, you can pick up from her.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's important to ask the end user what they think. And I think we're really bad at that in education. Right. I think we have a lot of people still in some, high level seats that don't necessarily believe in student choice and voice. So we don't ask them. We make plans for them, curriculum, all sorts of stuff we make for them, not with them. We don't ask them the very question you just asked, which is like, what's up with school? Like, what do you love? What do you not love? What'll help you want to be here? And then let's actually make the systemic shifts that it takes to be an attractive place where kids want to come and stay. I think the system, across our nation, is just antiquated. There are pockets of goodness happening in a lot of different places, but they are just pockets. I remember reading Teach Like Your Hair is on Fire years ago by Rafe Esquith, and everybody going wild over that. But he's a sixth grade teacher, not to minimize the greatness that existed, where he had kids learning how to play the violin and decode stuff that other classrooms could only dream of. But that was in pockets, right? But I think when we have these opportunities that happen in education to explore innovation, ingenuity, and all of that, it is not just for it to be in that pocket, but for us to figure out how to replicate so that education could still stand a fighting chance. And the last thing I'll say is I think this generation may have a stigma attached to it, like they don't listen, they don't want to learn. I think they very much still value education. So I don't think it's the what, I think it's the how. Kai Cenat, he launched his Stream University over the weekend, had a high level of attendance. It said 120, students. I don't know if it was more than that, but the point is they flock to it because they want to know what he's teaching. And I think if we can learn to replicate that, then we'd have more kids in seats in school learning and wanting to be there.
That's what's up, man. David, as you go into yours, are you familiar with Kai Cenat and his Streamer University?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh, y'all are like a really just dope crew of people. I don't know why anybody our age would need to know this, but the three of us knowing it kind of, maybe that says something bigger than what I thought it would have said, because it was on fire. It had social media on fire the last few days. Mm-hmm.
I think the numbers here in your opening are pretty astounding. When I think of students and there's so many reasons why students are chronically absent. There are things that schools can do to address some of those things. And then there are some things that just are outside of the scope of schools to be able to address. And it feels like sometimes schools get in this like mission creep situation where they're trying to heal all of the harm in the community. And I'm like, that's not your job. I think the best thing that schools can do is to offer an engaging and exciting and a relevant curriculum, right? That's connected to 2025. And so I think students are, a lot of students are drawn. I know my son is drawn to school mainly as a result of social activity. So, seeing his friends is a big deal. The curriculum, instruction, learning, he can kind of come or go. So he's still not really kind of latched on in that way. And so if something were to happen, with his social situation, I think it would be hard to get him to go to school. I think those are the things that schools can control. I've been looking a lot at, high school models and schools that are doing like linked learning, learning pathways, early college programs, all of these things to get students, like one foot. You're still in K-12, you're enrolled, but then you get to put that other foot out into like a college environment or a work-based environment or a community environment, right? I mean, I think that's the engagement. When I say engagement, that's really what I'm looking at.
Mhm.
I just saw, I don't know where it was, but it was in Dallas, and I forget the context of it. I was watching a video, and they're talking about this high school in Dallas, which it's a big school, and but they have businesses inside the school. They have a print shop, they have cafe, they have a
I
bakery,
saw
they
that.
have a restaurant, and students can like go to school and have jobs in these businesses, and they're like, it looked like a mall, right?
Right.
But
I
we
mean,
saw
it
the
felt
same
better than
video.
work study when I was in undergrad. Like it was nice.
Yeah,
Did
but the
we share that in our group? Because I swear I saw it. I don't know if I got it from y'all or if I saw it somewhere else.
I saw it somewhere else. I forget where I saw it. But just going back to the numbers are definitely troubling when students are out of school. I just think of like, students trying to make up work, turning in work late, teachers having to go back and sort through it. I mean, it's a logistical nightmare, and a lot of these students end up some of them end up, you know, passing because they've earned the grade and they were able to stay organized. A lot of them are socially promoted, so that's a big problem with chronic absenteeism. And then a lot of them just end up, failing and dropping out, which we know.
Yeah, and I just want to get your initial, reaction to the numbers before I give my first question, which you might double dip a little bit, but it was just interesting to me too because when we started talking about this, it's just chronic absenteeism is not one of the sexier education topics, right? It's not like, it's not guns in school, it's not violence, it's not even like rigorous or curriculum or test scores, right? Like it's just this one is one of those things where you have to really talk to people and you got to be like, yo, it's important for your kid to be here. And this is why. But I also think schools have to be honest because parents are community members tend to be very surprised when I explain, ADA or like how schools get paid or how that process works. And then it feels disingenuous to people, but it's like, yo, multiple things can be true. Like this is the formula in which we determine how much money a school gets or whatever the case is. And schools responded. I think this problem started back a while ago. Whenever truancy police became a thing, I think was how this responded, where you showed what you cared about. It's like, oh, well, we got these truancy police, not necessarily to keep these kids safe or make sure these kids are learning, but we're losing so much money as a functioning financial structure that employs hundreds of people that we need cops to like hold these people accountable to make them come, not saying that you're losing out on so much learning and instruction. So my rant can end right there, but this kind of does dovetail. What do you think students are telling us just when they stop showing up? And again, there's always going to be a cutter. There's always stoners. There's always like groups of those kids. But when I read these numbers at this type of rate, something else is happening. So what do you think they're trying to tell us, Dave?
Oh man, I think they're trying to tell the system many different things. I think for some, it's a situation where like they just, have a lot of things going on in their home, in their community, in their own lives, and that makes it hard to get to school, to engage in school. And so, I think in some cases, chronic absenteeism should be used as a kind of I mean, it's a data point, it's an assessment. It means like there's trouble here for whatever reason. This student's not showing up to school. They're missing 10% or more a year. And so how are we gonna address this issue? I think for some, they're probably saying like why would I come to school if I feel like I'm being overly disciplined, if I feel like the curriculum is not engaging, or just totally like disconnected from whatever might be happening within the classrooms. I think the other thing, and this is the bigger issue that I see, is some students not showing up and they know how to work the system and they can still pass those classes. They're showing us that they've learned how to game the system, and the system is not really working for them, even though they think that it is. So those are my first thoughts on that.
What about you, Drew? What you think students are actually telling us when they stop showing up?
First of all, I'm sitting over here writing a little diatribe because I'm thinking about my own kids, right? And why they go to school. They go to school because what are you doing? Like you have to go to school, right? But when my kids
Yeah.
turn around, they're like, "Can I use my mental health day today?" Or I don't feel like going. I don't press them. I'm just like, "Hey, you gotta be accountable for your work. Just make sure you get your work done." If
I
you
swear to God, we're living in the twilight zone. I want you to keep going.
mental health day,
I was picturing myself saying to my parents, can I use my mental health day today?
funny, right? They get one.
I
I
don't
want to
know
say
if they would have laughed or if they would have slapped me or if they would have laughed while slapping me. I'm sorry, y'all. My bad.
I mean,
I was born in 83. I'm sorry, y'all. I don't
when I was younger, I didn't have like mental health days, but I definitely was allowed to like, stay home, right? But I was like, I was an overachiever, like, so school was my thing, right? If it wasn't for work, it was for my friends, to David's point. But I think like that is one adaptation that was necessary, especially for this generation with this whole like mental health day, because if we as adults are like, nah, I cannot. People are asking me, "How you doing, Jubilee?" I'm like, "I am crunchy. I am tired. I am burnt." Like kids can get that way too. Like they don't want to listen to Miss Oppenheimer third period with her squeaky voice talking about nothing. Like they get tired too. So anyway, but to answer your question, I think school is slow. I think school is slow. We live in a day and age where if you got the bread, you can find yourself in space somewhere. You can go on YouTube, you can go on Chat GPT, you can go on Khan Academy, you can take a whole course. You get no attitude, no demerits, no detention. There's little to no biases. Of course, all these things have their own biases kind of built in, right? But like, I don't have to deal with you, and I can walk out more brilliant, and I can know at the age of 7, or I can know at the age of 12 what a 32-year-old grown person knows just by being consistent with a search. So school is slow. Like, what are y'all doing? What are y'all waiting for? Like school at one point, maybe, I don't know, 200 years ago, school mirrored real life, right? Or was preparing you with the skills you needed for real life. Now it's still stuck in that time. So it doesn't look like real life. Like how could Kai Cenat have what he's got, and we can't even find a school that has a damn working video camera? Like we don't even have technology. Like, what are we saying? So it's like school doesn't look like life. It's not teaching me the things that I want to learn. Yeah, I might sit for a period or two to learn some BS I don't really care about if I know the payoff is that I'm going to get to be hands-on and experience something that I care about and will use in the real world and make money.
Yeah.
Right. So I'll stop there. But I think school is slow. That's my.
I want to stay here. Like I think you hit on a few. I think you both hit on a few different things. I think you made a really good point, Jube, that I think we should actually follow up on a little later. But you're talking about why you went to school, what got you there, and maybe that's the better question to frame it in a positive way, and how schools should think of like how do we attract as opposed to how do we stop people from running. But I will say this. Here's where I will say is a little unfair. We can't compare schools today to Kai Cenat's like Streamerversity, right? Because that's not really that's celebrities. Kai Cenat, DDG, like these streamers, these 22, 23-year-old streamers, that's this generation's, these kids and that current generation's like that's their Leonardo DiCaprio. That's their Denzel Washington. Now, if you told me when I was a kid that Will Smith, Denzel Washington, whoever else I liked, Urkel, or Myra. I like Myra from Family Matters more than Laura.
But did you?
Absolutely, Myra. God bless her soul. Myra was so fine.
Beautiful.
Or Tootie. If these people were hosting a week-long study thing, I would want to go too. Like this. That's different. That's not.
Yes, but every generation has their joint though, Charles. Like that's what I'm trying to say. If they told you they was going right, like my son's school before we got here, they had a recording studio. They didn't have no celebrities coming through there, but for the kid who's like, I don't want to play lacrosse, I don't want to play chess.
I agree with you. Yes, I agree 1,000% with that part. I just don't want to have the false equivalency of streamer university with like
We just
You're
tap
high
into
school.
something they care about. That's all I'm saying. We as educators can do the same. And
David's kid goes to a really, really dope school. But if all his heroes was having a thing that he could apply to be at for a week, I promise you, it's like deuces. Dad, I want to go to that, right? But I think the point that is worth noting, so Castanat doesn't get most of our stream, is what is it that's pulling you in? Do I actually feel like I'm learning? And and this generation socialized so differently than every generation before them. This is the generation that don't really talk to each other in person, or like they spend more time online. They spend more time on the screen. And I think we got to really, really like the product is cooked. Like, how do we fix the product? How do we actually address the product? And also, man, I know we were kind of joking about those old parents, or I love Toya going through the whole thing of how her mom was with her, how she was with her kids, but now how sweet she is as a grandmother. Like she said, now as a grandmama, I say, "What's wrong, baby?
What's wrong, baby? What's grandma making?"
Mom, she was like, "Get your ass up. What are you doing?" Spell mental health. I got your mental health right here. To now, grandma, she get to be soft. I love it. That's why all parents want to be grandparents, so they can like be nice to somebody's kid because they weren't nice to their own. I would say this. I love it though, but on some real shit though, I will say this, and this is why I give Toya credit. Some of this also is family, yo. If I tell you that your kid's been chronically absent, and unless you've been like, yo, this is a transportation issue, or this is what's going on, like if there's a disconnect, one of two things is either happening. One, either you know that they've been absent, or two, you don't know that they've been absent. And there are proper responses for both of those scenarios. If you know, it's like, well, what is it that's happening that's preventing this kid from getting here on time? What needs to change? What do we do? Let's make a plan. And if you just been cutting and I didn't know, I know it's a different generation. I know it's 2025. I know you can't hit kids no more. Let me just start by this. But I would not, and I didn't just get beat or nothing like that. I was not abused as a kid. But I wouldn't have thought not only to not cut, but to chronically cut. Oh, I would have thought I would have got manhandled in front of people at that school, man. I just wanted to hold everybody accountable because then I want to throw it to you, David, because you kind of said there's some shit schools can do. Some of this, we ain't really got we can't really do much. So, David, what's your thoughts, man, on this?
So, I mean, my son was recently not allowed to attend school for a day due to some incident, right? And
was he suspended? Do we not say the F word?
Yeah, he was. Okay. He was, and it was justified. But I emailed all of his teachers like I always do. Yeah. And I'm like, we're getting close to the end of the school year, and I've been staying on him, so make sure he's able to get his work. And one of his teachers shot back at me, saying like, well, the fact that your son was suspended says that he's probably going through some kind of emotional situation. And it's best not to apply pressure on him in this moment, when he's ready to it was a very Montessori-esque response. Like when he's ready to start re-engaging in his schoolwork, that's his choice. And, he will do it. And I was like, I've been struggling with this teacher all year, and I didn't even write back to her. She even put in the email, she's like, I seem to remember several weeks ago when he was forced to come to school, and he told you that he was feeling sick, and when he came to my class, he threw up all over the classroom. Whatever, it happened. He woke up. He's like, I don't feel good. I'm like, go to school, drink some water. And this teacher was like, I'm like, what is she trying to do? Is she trying to frame this as like a bad parenting thing?
Yes.
Yeah. That's exactly what happened. And I'm like, I can engage or I can disengage. So I'm choosing peace over violence. And I mean, I'll show you the email. It was crazy. But point being is like, no, you go to school. You don't, unless you're like really sick, you stay home.
Right.
Unless you're having an emotional breakdown of some sort, you're probably still going to school,
Please don't leave here yet, David. Because I just now I'm just talking with my friends now because I have so many questions. One, I got to know what you was feeling when she's talking to you like this. I have to know how old this teacher was. Like, if this teacher's 40 or 50 and up, I'm gonna be like surprised.
No, younger. Not sure if she has kids or not, because that matters. And then, I mean, I showed the message to my wife, and I talked to some other people about it. They're like,
what did Mrs. Castillo say?
She had an interesting take. She's like, I kind of see her point, and I'm like, basically just leave it alone. But I have some friends that are on the, that are tend to be more like socially conservative. And they're like, that's wokeism, man. They're trying to take your kid from you. It's gonna call CPS on you. And I was like, wow, man, I don't know what's going on here. But I just felt like it was totally out of line. And I'm like, if I have 2 or 3 more of those situations in the next couple of years, like we're homeschooling, we're doing something different. Because it was really something else. So, I think, yeah, that was interesting. I mean, sometimes I have to motivate myself so I can help Micah to be motivated to go to school, to stay on top of him, because it's really, it's his school is really big. And it's kind of like a big machine, you just kind of have to understand how to work the system, there's nothing special about it. I'll tell you that. But, yeah, that's my take on that. But, that was, but here's the thing. I think going back to the other point, technology is now, so like with AI is just like light speed, quantum shift in, information. Right. And so, I think schools need to be smart about how they engage with AI in classrooms. And I think, for me, like one of the things that I've appreciated about, my son's English teacher, was that they read books. They're constantly reading books, like old school books, not on a Chromebook. They just finished reading The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian by Sherman Alexie. Great book, great themes. And now they're reading Romeo and Juliet, by Shakespeare. And, they read the book, they come in, they have discussions without computers. I wouldn't go as far as to say like Socratic seminars, but, they're engaging with one another in a very old school kind of way. I think those things really matter, because that's when young people go to school and they get to engage with one another and like share their ideas and communicate face to face. Like, the more technology has creeped into our lives, I think the more we should get technology out of schools, because that's where you start to lose that human connection. And the human connection is important to motivate young people to want to go to school, because humans want to connect with other humans, right? So
for me, it was basketball. For me, it was like, if I got there early, in elementary and middle school, we used to play before school and play after school. When I was in high school, we had other things like sometimes you had like a team meeting, or you kind of get there a little early or whatnot. But there were, it was the only place I could do certain things, and I wanted to be able to have that. And again, I'm not trying to take us off. I just wanted to connect with y'all on this because I'm the one that's not a parent here, and I'm just getting caught up on protocol. And David, I don't ever want to get you in trouble with Mrs. Castillo or younger Castillo. I'm gonna ask you, Jubilee, like, what was, if you got suspended from school, what was protocol for Mama Ransom, if she's on? Hopefully she's watching, but what was protocol when you were a kid if you would have got suspended or said some shit like you didn't want to go to school? And if one of your boys gets suspended, what is protocol in the house? I am so lost, because what is logical to me, apparently you just lump me in as socially conservative, because I in no part of my life do I feel like I'm socially conservative, but you taking your ass to school, kid. I don't what are we talking about? And the teacher is not about to talk to me and tell, well, maybe if you would have, fuck are you talking to? Like,
that's very strange. No, let's talk about trust. So me growing up, I was a chronic cutter. That's why I'm sitting here laughing. Like 10th grade, I didn't go to class. I didn't.
And you a lady too. It's a little. I think it's a little different with girls and boys, but I'm curious to hear. I'm curious how this
Let me
goes.
tell you something. My parents was up at the school. It didn't make no difference until I got to a place where I was like, oh shoot, I done cut all my classes from 0 period to 8th period. And if I want to graduate and get out of here, I'm gonna have to figure out how to get all these credits that I missed. Like the ball was in my court, I couldn't throw it to nobody else. I had to figure that out. But I was a chronic cutter just so that I could do something I love, which was sing on the gospel choir and hang out with the gospel kids and make friends and play spades in the cafeteria. Are you kidding me? And go to Burger King and the school security agents would let me go in and out so I could get some French toast sticks? Absolutely, yes. And yes, the cut cards went to my house. My parents came up to meet with the teachers and say about how many times I've cut again and all of that, right? But then there comes the village that, was like rooting for me, like, come on, we know you can do it. And when I finally did it and I had to go to AM school, I had to go to PM school, I had to go to Saturday school, like just to earn all my credits and got my GPA back up to like a 90 point something. I had a work study job that was like, we're taking you out for Italian, right? When I worked in the World Trade Center. So like I had a village around me that it's like, if I wasn't getting it from one place, I was getting it from another that was like, girl, you need to go to school, right? And it took a while for me to listen, but I finally went, right? But that was that. But I was a kid that loved school. It's just that, it was like to be smart or to be popular. And one year I just chose to be popular. And I chose to be the kid to go to English class one day out of the semester and still get an 85 on the test. Like I was that kid. So I chose one over the other. And that was that. In terms of like suspension and all that,
If one of the boys got suspended today, what protocol when they get to the crib?
I go fight with the school first, because first I have to understand, because I don't trust y'all. I don't trust y'all. Y'all are biased. Y'all don't treat black boys the same. And
let's say they got suspended for cutting. Let's say they got caught cutting. I don't know. They get caught cutting.
Oh, I'm gonna take the stuff that matters to you. I'm gonna take away your freedom, because I teach my sons about responsibility, right? And I told them this teenage game that we have to go through, really, it's all about responsibility and trust. And you demonstrate maturity. For the measure of maturity that you demonstrate, that's the level of responsibility you're going to receive. And that's the level of freedom that you're going to receive. So in the reverse, it works the same way. So you act like a ding dong and you don't want to do what you got to be responsible for, then your level of freedom is going to be that much less. That's basically it. So they cut or whatever, you still responsible for the work. And I'm going to take away something that you love. I'm going to take away some of your freedom. You thought you was coming home at 10 o'clock. All right, you going to come home like you 4 years old, be home at 3 p.m. Like I do a lot of like logical consequences. So you understand, like you can splurge on something that you really want to do, but it's going to cost you at some point. And so I'm the one that comes so you could pay me my money, pay me my time, pay me whatever. Because you splurged in an area that wasn't aligned with the level of responsibility and maturity you're supposed to be demonstrating at this age.
David, as I come to you, I want to thank Jubilee for her answer. And I want to say the world is so lucky that I do not have children, because I would apparently be fucking terrible. David, what is protocol? What was protocol if you got suspended and it was your fault when you was a kid? And protocol when the kid is suspended today. I know I got one more question after this. I am genuinely fascinated. I cannot continue.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I ever
had to come and get your butt from school because you were suspended. Yeah. I just need.
Oh, that's it. You saying you asking him a different question. Now, if I gotta leave what I'm doing to come to no, like
you they don't brought this honor to our name to these. You got these white folks calling my house.
Don't call my house. Don't call my number. We don't have these. That's what I'm saying. Don't call my house. I'm not. Oh. I gotta leave what I'm doing to come up there. Now we done shifted. If they send
my bad. I asked the question wrong, but let me hear David's and then I'll let you rebut. I'm
done. Go ahead.
I was never suspended from school. But that doesn't mean I didn't do things that were suspendable, right? I mean, I like Jubilee. I started cutting class in middle school, probably in like 8th grade. We cut class for like the whole half of the day after lunch and go skateboard. we would do all kinds of things. I'll tell you that.
Was it Reefer David?
I mean, there were definitely,
I'm messing with you, man. You good.
There was all kinds of stuff involved. And we, but never got caught, and so that's the whole thing about, it. And this is why like suspensions from school are interesting, because like if a student gets suspended from school for a particular thing, you can be guaranteed that 100 other kids did that same thing. They just didn't get caught. Right. And so it's not like you got suspended, you were the only one that's doing this, you're an outlier. No, it's like you're the one that got caught. Right. And so part of the discussion is like, okay, what happened? Okay. And you understand if you do this thing again, like you're probably going to get, found out again. So just don't do it. Right. But I think it's freedom. Technology gets taken away. There's typically like hard labor that happens in and around the house. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it, but it's a terrible call to get. I'll tell you that. And 9 times out of 10, Jubilee's right. Like they'll get it wrong.
Yeah.
Like, and then you have to go and like put all this work in to do their job for them. And I mean, in this situation that happened with us last week, they definitely dropped the ball in communication. It's like you want to be like quick with the communication home, but you also need to be clear.
Yeah.
And there are times where there's like gray area,
Yeah. Quick.
And so in this case, it was pretty clear cut. But now there's been times where I'm like, no, we're not doing this. But I mean, if you walk into any like high school today in this country, there's all kinds of stuff that's going on that the adults just either miss or choose to not pay attention to.
Yeah. I love y'all's answers have truly perplexed me. It is so good that I don't have kids, and something just happened that I didn't think was possible. Is that I want children even less now, and I wanted them at a 0 when the show started. I don't know. Let me tell you, if I got suspended, for the most part, right? If I would have got suspended, my father's definitely the authoritarian. My mother is the logic, is whatever. She's the sweeter one. But like they would have that if they didn't unite on nothing else, it's that you have brought honor and shame to this family. Like you got these people calling my house. Like the threat, I didn't even get. I mean, I got tightened up a few times by my pops. I can really count on one hand. But the threat of getting tightened up was more than enough for me. And the threat of that tightening up potentially happening in a public forum, like if you had to come to the school and correct me, like if a parent has to leave work and come and get me. See, look, my parents, there was one time, I did get suspended one time, but this is why. I was in elementary school and this teacher was mean as hell. She was so mean, and a kid peed on herself. And I remember going home and telling my mom, and they was like, well, why? And I told her a story. She's like, she just wouldn't let nobody leave the room. And she said, listen, if you ever got to use the bathroom, you ask that lady with respect. If she does not let you go, you have my permission to get up and go. And if they got a problem, you tell them to call me. And that scenario happened maybe a month later. And I told them to call my mama. And I don't know what my mom said, but I was suspended. She stayed home. And she, without the words, she like reinforced that sometimes like follow rules and be a rule follower. But if there's an unfair rule, like it's clearly unfair, I want you to be able to stand up on your own. If I was sick, though, if I was sick at home, if I said I was sick and I can't go to school, there's no TV, there's no game, there's no phone, there's anything. Like you just need to go get better. Like you need to go do that. If any TV you watch, it'll be out here watching stories, which I know you don't like and have no interest in. And if I had a kid now, and I found out they was cutting. We got a problem, bro. Like, listen, if you come talk to me, if you come holler at me, like, we can talk about it, we can commiserate on it. But guess what? I'll get at the school about what the school does or should do or whatever the case is, but you still have a responsibility, and I expect you to uphold it and not disobey me like this. Like you ain't had no conversation with me. You ain't asked me this. Like, You know, you wouldn't like Jubilee's kids and ask for a mental health day, whatever the fuck that is. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like on some level, parents gotta look. We've done a ton of shows about listening to student voices, honoring student voices, making sure agency is up front. And I also believe, as a person who is a foremost thought leader around agency, I also believe parents got to also run their household, man. Like
I think it's a thing.
It's the lack of respect, or you just knowing ain't shit gonna happen. And again, my homies whose dad wasn't at home, they did do a lot of stuff. I ain't gonna hold you. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying this to mean nothing. I'm not saying this to get at nobody. And me and my dad have an up and down relationship, but I had a pops at home, and he was a big dude, and he didn't talk much. He didn't say much. My mom was like, either get him, calm down. There's more to this story. My mother to this day is the person that keeps my father calm. My mother and my sister, I will say that, because my sister had a very different childhood than the rest of us. I told you my dad learned big words when my sister came. So he got feelings and empathy and everything. I did not know this was possible. His little princess came. She can't do no wrong today. So it is what it is. My final question though, man, and I just had to, I've never been speechless on this show before. So I'm just taking it in. Like
Charles, it don't mean the same thing. You know what I'm saying? Like this suspension thing, I think we all have core values. Like, right. Imagine the calls that me and David get, right? You can get calls that's like, well, you know, your son was ripping up a napkin during third period and he wrote all over it. And some of the shreds fell on the floor and I told him to pick it up and he wouldn't pick it up. And then I told him to give me his phone and he wouldn't give me the phone because he said he wasn't doing anything wrong. And so I kept adding detention. Now he has 17 days of detention.
Yeah.
Imagine, like, that's why I said, let's start with trust, right? Yeah. And then I'll add to that, like, core values. Like, if you tell me my kid went and hit somebody or punched somebody in the face for no reason at all, and you suspended them, I have very little to say. I'm going to ask some questions. And if it checks out and my kid did that to somebody, that's not acceptable. Keep your hands to yourself. Point blank, period. However, if your little child put their hands on my son and my son hits your child back, don't call my phone. Don't call my phone. And don't tell me, oh, the rule is you're supposed to tell an adult. Yeah, okay. He's going to tell me, because I'm not sending my child to school to be beat up on. And that's not how it works in the real world.
I understand that.
So I just think there's layers, and schools have different values. Like you get suspended from school is not worse than what happens when you get a consequence from me at home. That's why it don't really happen like that. Right. Like, you want to do what you got to do at school so I don't get a phone call, because like it just happened with my son this morning. Something happened. I took his phone this morning because the school called me. I didn't like what I heard. I'm like, you need to nip that in the bud. That's not cool. Don't do that no more. Give me your phone. And sent him off to school. He had lunch detention for whatever he did at school, but I still gave him a consequence at home. Right? That's for some things. That's not for all things, because some of the calls from school be BS. Even the suspensions. And then I have to go in with a sword. Yeah. And be like, no. This is not fair. Like, you gotta enlist. You know, so I think it's just values have shifted, but also my core values is what runs this thing. I will respect the school to a certain degree, but I have learned that it's what I'm saying and how I'm raising my kids. And if what the school is doing is mirroring that, then we have partnership. If we don't, we have a fight.
I love it. Listen, I'm not mad at it. I had this other question. I mean, I'll ask it, but this is just so much more fascinating to me. Y'all are watching a baby bird pop out of a shell right now. I'm looking at the world. I'm like, what is this? That's a light. That's beautiful. This is crazy. I don't understand this language you all speak.
You shared some data earlier, looking at the Oakland school system and the fact that a much higher percentage of students are African American that are chronically absent than attend the schools, right? Like they're double or triple represented in that smaller group. If you a parent or you're a caregiver, you send your child to school or you don't, that's the only data point that you're kind of working with. But I think looking at the larger systemic data is important, because we do know that African American children, Latino children, and students with special needs are over disciplined in
Absolutely.
school, right?
Absolutely.
And so, it's like, and what happens in schools is like children by racial group, by ability group get profiled. It's a strong word, but it happens. Teachers, administrators, staff start to build this implicit bias that at some point turns explicit, right? And then you start to see, you walk by. I used to walk through the hallway when I was head of school at Urban Montessori, because we served TK students. They're like 4 years old up to eighth graders, and I'd walk in each classroom. I'd walk in the hall to see, and we said you cannot put a student in the hallway. If you need support with the student, keep them in the classroom. You need help, we can send help. But every now and again, a teacher would ask a student to go sit outside. I'm like, that's great. I'd walk by and I'm like, they're all Black boys.
Mm-hmm.
I'm walking into a classroom. I walk into 4 classrooms during morning circle, and there's a Latino kid, an African American kid that aren't participating in circle because they can't figure out how to sit still, and they're not given any tools or any kind of like accommodation to be able to move their bodies, right? And so they get put in the back of the classroom, and you walk in and you're like, boom, there it is. That's where you start. That's where we start the earliest forms of disenfranchisement. I'm not part of this other thing that these other kids are doing and they're successful at. I'm just not good at it, right? And that's where it starts. And I think chronic absenteeism is a result of that. It's like, why would you want to go to a place every day where you're probably going to get disciplined for something that maybe you did, maybe you didn't, but other kids are doing it and they're not getting disciplined for it, and you always are, right? Because they got their eyes on you. So, I mean, that's a big part of this chronic absenteeism. I mean, we were talking about suspensions and stuff, but that's the connection there. And that's very, very real. And you look back and you sit back and look at the data. We could probably do the same thing with every major school system in this country. Pick the top 10. Look at the makeup of the whole district, and then look at your chronic absenteeism. I guarantee you, students with special needs, African American students, low income students, and Latino students will be overrepresented in that data set.
Man, I listen, I think y'all did a great job today. I really do. I'm like, because, and I had that question, right? Like, let's if we were building a school, money wasn't an issue, all that stuff, what would we build to address this systemic issue? I think that should be his own show. I think when the numbers are as high as what I showed, I do think it's a huge systemic thing. Like that's why I presented the way that I did. But I think to solve this problem, there has to be an inside outside approach to it. There has to be, what are you doing systemically, but also what's the conversations and what's the standard in your crib, like in your home. And when my house, when my grandmother was still alive and we lived with my grandmother in Kentucky, it was like, all 3 of those adults had different roles in my life, right? My father, something needs to be fixed, something need to be paid for, something ain't working, like that's him. Something where I need some logic or some love or whatever, I'm getting mistreated or something like that. My mother is that person, and cheerleader or just anything I did. If I cough on paper, she gonna be like, my baby is a Picasso. Like, but there's roles that these people played, but if I disrespected that household or if I disrespected that teacher, remember my elementary teacher and my grandmother went to the same church, right? So there was no like listening to me over her because she trusted, like you said, start with trust, Jube. And so, but like if I did that, like if I stepped out of line in a crazy way or talked crazy, or I've talked back to my mother and within reason, especially, and my father is not that guy. My grandmother, I've never said nothing back to him, and I never really had a reason to either. But I wouldn't have, because there was just a hierarchy in my house, and I'm just really fascinated because kids born from 1995 on, it's just so different. It's just is so different. They're just things that I would never think to do or say to my parent or to my teacher or to my grandparent. And these kids are just like, yeah, man, my mental health care was more important than you right now. So F you, I'm leaving. I'm walking out. Like, and you can't do nothing. That's just,
yeah, that's a tricky one right there.
To me. It's just wild to me. It's wild.
Can't rest on those old school laurels anymore. I think respect is paramount. But I think this generation, and maybe it started with maybe not mine, maybe the generation after mine. I'm still considered a millennial. But this idea of mutual respect it's huge now, right? We are from the generation where it's likely do as I say, right? Not as I do. Children ought to be seen, not heard. Like there's a whole value system. I was talking to my friend Sunshine about this, the other day. These are different value systems. And some of our, systems nationwide run on this system still, right? Where this generation is like, I really do not care who you are. Like you can be Mahatma Gandhi, you can be whoever it is. If you don't come at me with respect, I'm not listening to you, right? And then there's a fine line, because then you step outside of that and go out into the world where don't nobody care, and the cops blow a whistle and tell you walk left and you don't, and your life is in danger, right? So it's just teaching that balance. But this generation is not for the shits when it comes to that. It's like, no, you're an adult, so you're old enough to know how to respect me. And I'm going to respect you, but you're also going to respect me. You're not going to say nothing crazy to me. I ain't going to say nothing crazy to you. And they do not factor in the age as a part of this, right? We're not negotiating this, right? But I think too, like back to what you said, David, this idea of community and sense of belonging, many of these charter schools and CMO organizations that people love to hate, right? And these successful schools that we see across the nation, that's something that's number one on their list. Why?
Yeah.
Because, and I've only ever worked in Title I schools. I've only taught in Title I schools, led in Title I schools, right? Always in the hood, on purpose, right? Which means that there's going to be levels of poverty, which means there's going to be a higher level of single parent households, which means that there's likely going to be a lower education status, right? And so number one is, how do I get this kid to be seen? How do I get this kid to understand that you are seen, you are loved, you are valued? I don't know what you're getting at home. And I'm not going to assume that your mama don't care, that your daddy don't care, that your grandmother, your mama got 3 jobs, your father might be incarcerated for real, right? They don't have the time, the space, the capacity. But when you come to school for these 6 hours and 20 minutes, how can I express to you how important it is for you to be here, and how much I care about your presence here, and how much I'm going to figure out how to make what happens throughout this day something that appeals to you and reaches you and touches you. And that goes across the continuum, K-12 spectrum. It doesn't stop. Some people think, that's just for elementary. No. If you look at high schools that have a high level of attendance, you will likely find that there's a sense of community as well as accountability. So I do think that that's a part of it. Like those young men that you're saying are sitting against the wall out in the hallway, right? Or ostracized for whatever reason, or picked on. They have high levels of consequences over and over again. They likely do not feel a part of a community. And when we look, if we were to dig deep and try to find some data that we could, disaggregate, we would probably find, I don't feel like a part of a community. So yes, that's why I'm a part of a gang. Yes, that's why I rather hang out with these people, after school, or cut class and go here. Because I don't feel like I belong there. I only feel safe at home. So.
Well, and we're going to start in the final thoughts, but go ahead, David.
I got this one more thing to say. I think this is interesting because now it has me thinking about, again, maybe focusing in a little bit more on the work that, charter schools are doing, both, independent, small CMOs and large CMOs, and I think a lot of this has to do with the larger cultural shift that we all experienced, when we went from schools with very high standards and high expectations, and all of a sudden that was like, not a thing anymore, right? I think we shifted to the Common Core, and so the whole assessment landscape changed, and I think we heard some of this in our report, Charles, that a lot of these educators that went to some of these charter networks, 10, 12 years ago, 15 years ago, and now they're working in them, are calling out the fact that it's less rigorous today than it was when I was a student, right? We had when there was this, I don't know if you've all heard of this, but there were many charter schools, say like in the 2000s. There was a thing called
No
90
excuses.
90 90.
Oh.
You remember that?
Tell me 90 90 90. I don't know that one. I know no excuses.
Okay.
90, yes.
90. So 90 means 90% of your students are from a non-white background. 90% are low income, and then the other 90 could mean sometimes you've achieved 90% or above attendance, or 90% are proficient in their test scores, or 90% graduate and go to college, right? And that's what a lot of the charter schools were. We were hitting all those marks, right? And you know what? There was still crime in the community. There was still trauma in the community, right? But our issue, our concern was to create a healing environment where students could come and feel safe, and where they also knew that we were going to hold them accountable, and we were going to push them academically. And it's that, like, you have to build the trust. The students have to trust the school. The families have to trust the school. And then once you get that trust, and it's mutual trust, then that sets you up to be able to really engage in the work of education. But this stuff it's all happened, and now I just feel like we've really taken our finger off of the pulse with attendance. It's one of the most like core fundamental data points, and people aren't even really talking about it anymore.
It tells you so much. It sounds off so many alarms. It's like a first like trigger of like a bunch of other things are probably, if attendance is that low, it's probably a bevy of other problems that's underneath the surface. And this is what makes you look into it. I'm going to go into final thoughts. I will just say, and Toya picked this up as well. I didn't want to create this larger chasm of like, I don't think that adults should be disrespecting kids at all. None like that. I want to be very clear, the same way Toya was like, she wasn't downright disrespecting child. But I also think that while this generation might be better and parents now have more tools and more money and they got a new vocabulary, I don't think you should throw everything away from tradition. I do just think there are some things that go into the makeup of who we are as people, about your role or duty as a father and a husband, your role and duty as a mother and a wife, or as a woman and as a man, or like who protects. Like when wars happen, this is what happens, right? Like they say women and children first for a reason. Like I think that like I get we're trying to evolve as a society, and sometimes the pendulum swings too much, and I think we're in that. And I think by the grace of God, we will kind of get that more from being up here to kind of, in the middle to get it right. But let's go to final thoughts. Why don't you lead us off, Jube, and then I'll round us out. So David's up next.
Yeah, I mean, this is a worthy topic, yet not a mystery, right? Like the fact that we are able to even still talk about this, that's the mystery, because I think we have all the solutions. But it's almost like based on who's sitting in the seat, and who's running our districts nationwide, it's like the shift is just not happening. And I think that also happens when, potentially who's running the district is out of touch with, again, like I said in the beginning, the end user, which is our children, our adolescents and young adults, that we need to start paying attention. And not thinking that, it's like the people are like, oh, you guys got Black History Month. What are you complaining about? It's 12 months in a year. You got Black History Month. And then you make some little change in the district's, offerings. It's like, now we have iPads for every kid. Look, we're making a shift. It's like, no, the kind of shift that we're talking about, to your earlier point, Charles, is internal, it's external. We need CBOs. We need partnerships. We need attorneys, we need engineers. Like it'll take an entire village to really sit down and say, all right, here's the profile of what generation we up to? Gen X, Gen P.
No, we're as Alpha,
Nufa, wherever we at. This is a profile of this kid. This is what gets them. Come on, we've got technology to be able to figure this stuff out, and then let's plan for it. And then if we're talking about global citizens and being competitive, You know, we're not just talking about the United States. What do our students need to access now that'll prepare them for 10 years from now to compete against their neighbors?
I don't know if the Chinese is getting mental health days. I don't know if that's happening. It might be. I don't know.
It's a hazing culture if I ever seen one. But whatever, whatever works for them.
That culture lost the last war. They lost the Cold War, and they said we're not losing nothing else.
Well, guess what?
And they own the world now. But it's all
I'm
good.
not mad at it. But how much obesity do they have? Cyberbullying, teenage pregnancy at like
you're making their point. You're making
that's what I'm saying. This is why they don't. I'm not mad at it. I'm just saying this is why they don't need that.
I don't want to have to live in communism though to make sure that like this.
Agree. All I'm saying is we got problems over here because sometimes we choose comfort, over health and progress. So, but all I'm saying,
I'm so grateful for the day. I am so. I want to continue this conversation. So, David, get yours in. I've never experienced this on it in a while in this show.
Yeah.
I'm like here. Y'all got me. I want to do this for another hour, but give me your final thoughts, David.
I'm going to be a little more straightforward. I will say, around the chronic absenteeism issue, like it happens, I think for school districts and charter schools, it's important to, number one, have good data, right? Look at your data. And then beyond looking at your data, I think people should be more transparent with their data. Like if we have an issue with African-American students not showing up to school, like let's put it out there. Let's engage the community. Don't try and sweep it under the rug. You can have a school district with a very strong overall attendance rate, but underneath that, you could have certain subgroups that just are not showing up. And so don't run from it. Don't hide from it. Use it to get people organized, to develop plans, and that depends on, where you're at, your context, your community, your local culture. I think that's number one. And I think some school districts are just in hey, we have a problem, but they never get to the problem solving part of it. And I think number two, which is kind of a no-brainer, is, we've just come out of this pandemic where schools were shut down for 2 years? Depends on where you live. And so everybody has learned, for the most part, how to do online schooling. And so, for districts that have a chronic absenteeism issue, poll those families and say, hey, we have an online homeschool program. You can still be in the district, but your curriculum will be delivered online, asynchronous or whatever, with your teachers. And so students, they can still continue with their education in their home district, and have access to all of that, but just without having to go to school, right? And so you're bound to get probably a higher engagement rate, through that pathway for some students. If those students didn't have access to that, they're just not showing up to school, right? And so I think every single school district should be transparent and be like, here are schools, here's what they do, they're great, they're wonderful, whatever. And if you don't like that, we have this online option for your family, right? If you really want to keep students enrolled,
right,
and keep generating, that funding, because the other aspect of this is, it's not just the chronic absenteeism. It's the drop in overall enrollment and chronic absenteeism. And there's a big fiscal shock that's going to be coming pretty soon.
Listen, I've loved this episode. I want more time on it. I did not expect it to go like this and for me to be this engaged. It's my topic, but still, it was just A1. I will just say to some of what you both said, I agree. Listen, system, make the changes, make the improvements, do the best you can and make the product better, because shit has been cooked for a while. And then households, once they do that, either if they do that well or not, you still got a mandate to, send your kids to school. Or if you don't like that school that much, then move them and send them to another school. But they need to be going and getting some education. You need to be making sure the quality of that education is where it needs to be. I'm going to end mine, though, on a much lighter note. Okay. David, do you know who Remy Ma is, David?
Yes.
I like Remy Ma. I think she's an incredible rapper. And right now, sadly, and I don't get into the gossip, I'm not going to, her and her husband are breaking up. It's very public. It's very ugly.
Really?
Yeah, and it's kind of Remy's fault, but it is what it is. But here's the thing, David, I need to send you a link. I need you to listen to Remy go on this rant, because she and our lovely Jubilee sound exactly the same. So I need you to like do it with nothing. It is such a New York. She's from the Bronx. I would have thought it would have been different between, because you from a different borough, right? Ain't you from you from Brooklyn,
I'm from
right?
Brooklyn.
You from Brooklyn. They not next door. I mean, they kind of
no.
Is there, but y'all sound exactly the same.
I've heard that.
It's such a ratchet and like deep thing. And I was listening to it in the car, and so I wasn't looking at her. All I could see was Jubilee. And so I would bless you with that gift if you ever want to know what a ratchet, upset, heartbroken Jubilee sounds like. I got the remedy. For Jubilee, David, and our good buddy Omar, who's probably on Uranus at this point, this has been another episode of the South Star Classroom. We'll see you all next week, same bad time, same bad station. I may be out of the way, but somebody will be here hosting. Peace out.